So for me, I think a lot of people define city in terms of either places or spaces or a collection of infrastructure, whether it's hard infrastructure or soft infrastructure. But the way I look at a city, and I think it is important that we sort of come to that particular conclusion, is that a city is a collection of different human subjectivities. I think when we look at a city, we look at the city as something of a externality, and when we look at something as an externality, we don't see it as part of our own ownership and stakeholdership framework. We think that city is external to us. And if you really think through that, and if you really start questioning it, and you see that there is no reason for us to think of the city as an externality or as an external structure, it is something that is established by our own consciousness, by our own mindfulness, by our thoughtfulness. So it is as much of a infrastructural construct as much as it is a construct that is of political, social, and economic nature. It's a cultural construct. It's an anthropological construct. And it is, as an anthropological construct, it is going to be populated by several stories, several ethnographies. And it is in those ethnographies, which are located within these different kinds of urban spaces and places, that you define a city as an organism. And that is true. In some way or the other, you are able to feel the city just as the city is able to feel you. And you don't, when someone asks you in a very, very honest manner and asks you, what do you think about your favorite city? You don't go ahead and talk about the train system or the bus system or the kind of high rises that you live in or the kind of large house that you live in. You don't even talk about the city in terms of large open spaces, or you talk about the city as in a warm, like a warm friend. So if Stockholm is a city that is functional and works hard and fast, that is a cultural feeling that you get. If Malmö is an open city and an inclusive city and is friendly for kids, that's also a cultural mood. So in some way or the other, end of the day, a city becomes a human subjectivity. It is a reflection of the human subjectivities, and it also becomes a repository of human subjectivities, and in some way or the other, it shapes you just as much you shape a city. Now, when you define a city in that manner, and you define the city in human terms, it has to be an organism. It has to be organic. The term organism comes from the fact that it is organic. If it is organic, then you have to go ahead and see it as a living body. And if you're going to see it as a living body, you can't go ahead and say that I'm going to develop only the arms and the legs. Just like the human body, you have to treat the city in a holistic manner, and you have to get that sorted out as a city. And it's in that framework that you have to start looking at urban planning and thinking and urbanism from the point of view of creating an organic whole rather than as a set of different modules. One is to go ahead and look at planning as something that cannot be defined in a manner that is standalone. So you can't say that I'm going to do traffic planning and not really take into account that traffic planning is connected to mobility, and mobility is connected to people staying at a particular place, and people staying in a particular place is completely dependent on a whole host of factors, depending on their purchasing power, depending on how equal or unequal the city is, depending on what kind of access do you have to the different kinds of city spaces, what kind of opportunity cost do you have to pay in order to access a space. So a city that is extremely unequal will have extremely well-developed parts of the city and extremely underdeveloped and undeveloped parts of the city. And when you try and ask an organic whole or an organism or a body to start interacting with very well-developed parts with underdeveloped parts, you're going to have a problem. And that's what happens in several cities, where inequalities and inequities go ahead and create a first world part at one level and third world parts in other parts of the city. And that's something that is that contributes to vulnerabilities. That's something that contributes to lack of sustainability and resilience. And if you reduce those vulnerabilities, and if you try and say that vulnerability is essentially about 2 points, it is about access and it's about equity. And if you put access and equity together in saying that everything has to have an equitable access, whether it's equitable access to energy, equitable access to spaces, equitable access to social capital, equitable access to economic and physical capital, then you're going to go ahead and increase sustainability and resilience of a city. Because in going ahead and making everything equitable and accessible, you're going to create a more inclusive city. And in creating an inclusive city, you're going to create a community of people who will stand for each other, who will understand each other's problems better, who will have a better communication with each other, simply because of the fact that there is openness, there's transparency, there's accountability. Each one is able to interact and engage with each other. And there are countless number of spaces and places where people can know their problems, people can come together, people can debate different kinds of issues. That is in that sense true urbanism for me. So today, sustainability and resilience are both seen as questions of ecology and environment, but they're not as much as a question of ecology and environment or of nature as it is a question of the human condition. If you reduce the amount of vulnerabilities that a human being has to encounter in an urban space, so in that sense, I think it's a little bit of a connected ecosystem where reduction of vulnerability leads to an increase in sustainability and increase in resilience in some way or the other.